Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the regular scheduled City Council meeting of Wednesday, July 20th, 2022. Let the record show that Councilor Schreiber is absent and all other councilors are present. Meeting called to order. First order of business, adds and deletes. Add consent agenda items 6 and 14. Add department and committee reports item 4A, 4B, 5A, and 5B. Add license and permits item 3 through 6. Next up, I need a motion to approval of the agenda.
So moved.
A motion by Councilor Harkinen.
Support.
Support by Councilor Bayless. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Next up, approval of minutes. Approve the minutes of the regular Hibbing City Council meeting July 6, 2022. Wishes of council.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilor Faso.
Second.
Support by Councilor Duranus. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Next up, approve the minutes of the Hibbing City Council workshop meeting July 6, 2022. Wishes of the council.
Motion approved.
Motion by Councilor Harkinen.
Support.
Support by Councilor Faso. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Next up, consent agenda. Item 1, approve accounts payable dated 7/15/2022, checks 172633 through 172695 in the amount of $346,788.43. Item 2, approve city payroll for pay period ending 7/1/2022, checks 168328 through 168333 in the amount of $544,752 and well, I don't know, Candy. I've never heard of 789 cents. Is it 78 cents or 78 cents? Item 3, approve the request of the North St. Louis County Habitat for Humanity to waive building fees for the Habitat House located at 2525 East 26th Street. Item 4, set the next regular meeting for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022 at 5:00 p.m. in the Hibbing City Hall Council Chamber. Item 5, set the next City Council workshop for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022 following the City Council meeting in the Hibbing City Hall Council Chamber. Item 6, set the next City Council budget meeting for Wednesday, July 27th, 2022 at 5:00 p.m. in the City Hall Council Chamber. Item 7, authorize the memorandum of understanding for the updated job description for the city service mechanic at the rate of $27.50. Item 8, authorize the memorandum of understanding for the updated job description for the recreation programmer at the rate of $29.96. Item 9, authorize the internal/external hire of the recreation programmer. Item 10, acknowledge the resignation of Tyler Pukinen, library lead worker at the library, effective August 3rd, 2022. Item 11, authorize the mayor to submit a letter of support for the Minnesota Forest Zone Trappers Association. Item 12, authorize the Hibbing City Council to attend a National Night Out in Bennett Park on Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. Item 13, authorize the mayor to submit a letter of support for MediaCom. Item 14, authorize the mayor to sign the letter to Hibbing Taconite Company to acknowledge the source of the contaminated soils in the land previously held by the city of Hibbing. Reminders approved at the July 1st, 2022 City Council meeting. Item 15, authorize the Hibbing City Council to attend the Hibbing birthday celebration on Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022 on the front lawn of City Hall at 6:30 p.m. Item 16, authorize the Hibbing City Council to attend the annual joint meeting with the Hibbing City Council, the Chisholm City Council, and the Airport Authority on Monday, August 15th, 2022 at 6:00 p.m. Wishes of the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read and published.
We have a motion by Councilor Hoffman-Sockman.
Support.
Support by Councilor Faso. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Next up, we have our audit presentation. Sheena, do you want to turn it over to you, or just move right into the audit presentation, or?
Yeah, you can turn it over to me. Thanks, Mayor. So this is Bonnie Schweiger. I'm sorry if I just pronounced your name wrong. She's been the senior manager for Abdo, working on our audit for the last 3 years. Andy did the presentation last year. She's taking over our presentation this year. So I'd like to just introduce her to the council and let her start her presentation.
All right.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for that intro, Sheena. So I am going to go through our presentation, which is a summary of the audited financial statements. If you have any questions on the more detailed financial statements or our management communication letter, I would love to go through those as well. And if you have any questions as I'm going through any of the information, please feel free to stop me and we can touch on anything as it comes up. I am going to start on page 3 of the audit presentation, and this goes over more of the technical requirements of the audit. We did issue an unmodified opinion on your financial statements. Our opinion letter is required by state statute, and it also lets users of your financial statements, like your bondholders and your residents, to put trust in those financial statements. And that unmodified opinion is exactly what you want. It means that your financial statements were free of material misstatements, and then it allows those users to put trust in them. So really good year from a finance perspective. We also review internal controls and make sure that there's no inconsistencies with your processes and that everything's being followed according to your policies. Everything looks good there as well. We review compliance with Minnesota state statutes. Again, no issues with any compliance requirements. On the next page, we do have listed one internal control finding. This is nothing to be concerned about, more something we need to disclose to you. We do prepare your financial statements as your auditors. We are an outside entity. Their financial statements are the responsibility of management. Sheena does review them, and they are, I know, taken seriously by council and staff, but we do have this finding in here as a disclosure that they're prepared by someone outside of your organization. All right, and then on the next page, we move into the financial results. I want to start with talking about your general fund. And this chart really illustrates to you your general fund reserves at the end of each year for the past 5 years. Your general fund reserves are an indication of how healthy your general fund balance is. This is where the majority of your operating costs flow through, and you can see that there has been a good increase year over year within your general fund, allowing you a lot of room to do things within that fund to support other activities. The city does have a policy of 50 to 65%. You can see that you're well above that policy and again have room to do other things with your general fund reserves. On the next slide, you can see what some of the increases were within the general fund. So comparing your budget to what actually happened for 2021, your revenues were about $600,000 over budget and your expenditures were less than budget. Most of the revenue variances were for some charges for services that were unanticipated that came in over budget. And then within the expenditure category, most of that budget variance was within the Public Works Department, which was about $500,000 under budget. You can see that the general fund was able to transfer out about $500,000 during the year due to some of those, the excess reserves there. And that was transferred out to some other funds to support some capital operations. On the next page is a review of your general fund revenues. So within your general fund, there are different things that support your operations. The majority of that comes in from intergovernmental, local government aid. This is where some of your CARES Act funds were in 2020. That's where you see that large spike in your grants from 2019 to 2020 and then back down again for 2021. Taxes is another large source of revenue there, so you can see that increase over the past 3 years. And then the next slide is a similar view, but for your expenditures. So on the spending side of your general fund, you can see what your different programs are and where the majority of your general fund budget goes. Public safety, obviously no surprise there that that's your largest program, as within most communities. You can see there a very steady increase within public safety over the last 3 years. And then you can see there that Public Works Department is your next largest program. All right, and then moving on from the general fund, the next slide lays out some special revenue funds. And we like to point these out because it's important to understand that the city has a lot of cash that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And some of that cash is restricted and used for these very specific purposes within these special revenue funds. So you can see there that you have 4 small special revenue funds, and the majority is committed by City Council for those specific purposes. It would not be able to be used for day-to-day activities. And then on the next slide is the capital project funds, which, similar to the special revenue funds, are set aside for these specific capital needs. And so your largest capital project funds are the permanent improvement fund and then the capital equipment and improvement fund. And with these, we just suggest that there's a very specific plan in place for use of these funds long-term, which I know is something that your city staff is thinking about. A lot of these funds are restricted in nature, so that's just important to understand. Again, they can't be touched for day-to-day operations. They have to be used for these specific purposes. On the next slide is some of your governmental debt service funds. And so you have issued debt for a variety of projects, very common there. And this slide just illustrates when that debt is going to be repaid. So it shows you really what that cash flow looks like until 2030, so over the next 8 years. Your last bond there, the 2018 bond, that does not mature until 2039. So this is very long-term, thinking about those debt service funds. And then next, we're going to go into some of the utility funds. Switching gears a little bit here, you want your utility funds to be able to support themselves. And so with this next set of charts on slide 12, we show the sewer fund, and you can see there on the top slide, the top chart, how your operating costs compare to your operating revenues. So what are you bringing into this sewer fund compared to how much are you spending on operating costs and then also debt payments? And you can see there that's a very healthy look with the operating receipts covering those costs and the debt payments. So you've been able to build up reserves and your cash balances over the past 4 years. We do have a suggested minimum target balance there. This is our very just general suggestion for cash to include. The minimum target balance is all of your debt service that you expect to pay within the next year, plus 6 months of your operating cost. We do recommend that you come up with a more specific target balance for your city. Again, this one is just very general, but you can see there that you did meet that target balance in 2021. And then there's a similar look for your garbage and refuse fund on the next slide there. You can see that the operating receipts have been sufficient to cover your cost again. So that's really great, and you've been able to build up that cash balance. And then for the memorial fund on the next page, so ever since 2019, this has had hardly any activity, not a lot to look at there with operating receipts compared to costs, since it has not been in much use over the past 3 years, and it has a very small cash balance in there. And then separate from the city, there is the Economic Development Authority that we have included some information on, just so you can see what all the different categories are within the EDA and how those cash balances look. And most of these funds are restricted or committed in some nature. Again, not available for just any type of operations within the EDA. And then we have a cash and investment balances in total on the next chart. And this one is really helpful to look at because it helps you understand that although you have a large cash balance within the city, it's broken down into these different areas that are that could be restricted in nature. And you can see where the largest amount of your cash is, which is within the general fund, and how that balance is growing. And then we also include an OPEB comparison on here. You guys have designated a certain amount of assets for your OPEB liability for future retiree health insurance obligations. And you can see there what that estimated liability is in black compared to how much cash you have designated for those liabilities. And then I have just a couple of peer group ratios I would like to show to you. So we start with some tax information on the next slide. I want to explain this just a little bit before we dive into it. So what we've done is we've taken information from the Office of the State Auditor for 2020 and prior, and then we've averaged that information to get to some peer group information for Class 3 cities, which is how the OSA, the state auditor, classifies you, and then also for cities in your county, and then also the city of Virginia. So you can see there how your tax rate compares to that other information, and then also the taxes per capita there for the peer groups. And the city is the line going across the different peer groups presented. And then we also have debt information on the next page that shows the debt per capita on the first chart. And then we have a debt service expenditures as a percent of your expenditures. It could be helpful to see how much are we spending on existing debt compared to our current and capital cost. And as you can see, you guys are spending a very small portion of your expenditures on your debt service requirements. And then on the next page is a look at your per capita information for your spending in your governmental funds. This would be not any of your utilities here, but just your current expenditures per capita and then capital expenditures per capita. And you can see how that compares to those different peer groups. And then I think we have one more comparison chart for the sewer fund. So for the sewer fund, within that utility fund, it can be helpful to see how much you're bringing in operating receipts to cover your debt payments. And you want that percentage to be higher. The higher that is, the better. And you can see there that you are at 176% for 2021. And I think that that is a fairly healthy debt service ratio. So that's really good to see. And we do have our contact information on the last slide. There's Andy's picture, so you get to see him, even though he's not here. So I would love to take any questions. And if you have any questions after this on any of the information, you can always reach out to me. I would love to hear from any of you guys.
Counselors, questions, or? I know we just got it in front of us, so.
Thank you.
Just thank you very much. I
Yes.
know our finance department has been pleased with your work, and so.
Well, they do an excellent job preparing for the audit, so.
And that's why we have people in place, like Sheena, if they're happy, or city administrator, or Candy, then I'm happy. So. Leave it to the professionals, so, thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no questions on that. Next, we have the HR levy request. Jackie, welcome, Jackie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Prescott. I'm the Executive Director at the HRA of Hibbing. We currently own and manage 252 units of public housing in the city of Hibbing. Additionally, we do lease enforcement for 27 units of tax credits at the PERP departments. We serve the low-income population. The average household income is just over $13,000 a year. 40% of the income for our families comes from wages. Almost 52% comes from Social Security and SSI, and less than 5% comes from other government assistance. And I think that's a lot of times people make assumptions that a lot of our residents aren't working. Most of them are. They're essentially the ones working the lower paying jobs. We at the HRA of Hibbing, we strive to be more than a landlord. In January of 2022, we became a move to work agency. What that means is part of a residency at our organization, if you are non-elderly, non-disabled adult in the household, you are required to participate in self-investment activities as a condition of your lease. So we were fortunate to be selected by HUD. We're one of 32 PHAs in the country that are small that were allowed to be part of this expansion. Our successes will move on and potentially become something nationwide. That's what we're hopeful of. They'll be studying what we're doing and how we're doing it. So we're really proud of that. We've seen some successes that we did not anticipate in the beginning, even down to a little bit more of a sense of a community, more pride in where you live, better communication with HRA. So what we're really trying to do is expand upon that, and that really is our mission, to be more than a landlord. And I think there's a lot of opportunities now for that. We have other partnerships. We're partnered with the city of Hibbing, of course, and providing some input on the housing task force, as well as planning to work very closely with the new community development director to determine the needs in the city of Hibbing. We've also partnered with Libraries Without Border to provide a literacy to our seniors in technology. We're currently working with Minnesota Housing Partnership, and what we're trying to do with them is look at some pre-development strategies for us. The council is very well aware that we have gone for tax credits to try to improve the Haven Court apartments, and as long as I am the director of that PHA, that will continue. What we're going to do initially with MHP is we're going to do a full city market study, meaning we're not going to just look at project specific, because many of the market studies I've seen are basically, this project you want to do, here's how it'll happen. So what we want to do is we want to look at the city of a whole determine what we have, what we need, and from that plan, work on our strategic planning. So that's one resource that we're, using our levy money to sort of leverage, because it's going to be a large cost, and then the HRA will share that fully with the city of Hibbing to help the city of Hibbing determine what your next steps are as well. And we'd love to continue working with you on some strategies moving that forward. We've also received lots of money from the Blandin Foundation. We've done a broadband expansion. I don't know if you're well aware, but outside the First Avenue apartments, there is free broadband available to the residents of the community. You can log on to get additional bandwidth. I think it's 1 meg for 1 hour is what you get, but you can certainly get some pretty good internet offerings there. We have also worked to expand that to the 7th Avenue apartments. We now have free broadband in the community areas, and my hope is to have every complex that we own and or manage be fully accessible to our residents at an affordable broadband. So we have a lot of great things. We got some money from the CDBG to help our MTW program. Essentially what we're doing is providing a transportation grant to those residents whose barriers are simply their car, cannot get them to work, and we all know the costs have increased. So just to give you a little bit of background of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish, I wanted to just bring that to the city's attention. So I'm here today to talk about the levy. Under Minnesota State Statute 469.033, we are eligible to levy up to 0.0185% of the taxable estimated market value in the city. For 2021, that amount would the taxable amount is over $900 million, which would result in our eligibility of over $168,000. Historically, we've requested $50,000 annually, and we're going to continue that request this year. But I just wanted to inform the city of what we're looking to do and what we're looking to accomplish and our potential to ask for more money down the road when we have something that we think the city would be excited about. So I provided a handout that shows our budget that we use for 2021 and what we're looking to do for 2022. This is a very small pool of money that we have that is not federal, that is not restricted by my 5-year plan and other HUD restrictions. So that was how I was able to get started on some of those pre-development costs for my last tax credit. And that's what I'm looking for to use to leverage on this market study I'm trying to do. And then we obviously have we are fortunate enough to have a Lead for America fellow. We will be getting another one. They're going to work half-time with me and then half-time with our Move to Wellness coordinator, working on some of our missions outside of the day-to-day operations. So we would use our levy money to also pay for that. I would say our future plans, we would like to continue to work with the city and address the needs addressed in our housing comp plan. Some being looking at options to preserve the existing housing stock, to rehab or demolish obsolete and or deteriorating housing. We'd also like to expand our housing stock. And with that, we actually have 58 units of what's called a fair cloth limit, essentially meaning that we can develop 58 additional affordable units and HUD will subsidize those. So looking at opportunities to maximize that. I know I've talked to the council many times about looking at more of a mixed income complex versus just designated specifically for one target population. And finally, we'd like to ensure that we have a feasible plan to have adequate supply of affordable housing available to meet the needs of the community now and in the future. So once we've received this market study for the city of Hibbing, and we'll begin our strategic planning as I discussed. And as I stated earlier, our main plan initially is going to figure out a better complex for the Greenhaven apartments. That's our number one goal, but we're open as we go through strategic planning and receive that market research as far as what does that look like. I can tell you that getting the Greenhaven redone is not something that I can do or the HRA can do without the full support of the community. And I do think it's something that can't all be done at once. So looking at the best ways to strategically place ourselves so we can get funded and turn that into its own community and less of a complex and more its own community, providing those services that we are so blessed to be able to give to our residents at this time. So be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions for Jackie?
Of course I do. Jackie, thank you. It was a great presentation. I think you said 252 units. What is your occupancy rate and how is your waiting list? I'm sure the need is greater than what you have.
Yes, well, I would say our occupancy rate is down simply because of the eviction moratorium that was lifted. So we're at a 98% occupancy. We unfortunately have dealt with several instances where we've had to terminate the leases and escort residents out and then come into a complex that needs a lot of rehab. So right now we're at 97%, which isn't too shabby. Our wait lists, they are moving pretty quickly right now just because where we're at in the world. You know, we get to someone who's been sitting on the list for 18 months, they've found something else or they're no longer eligible. There are lots of different reasons, but I would say we have no trouble filling the units. Right now we're struggling to turn the units is really why our rate is low.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I did, thank you so much.
Any other questions? Jackie, I just want to tell you thank you for what you've done, you know, for the HRA and for the city and working with the city for the last, it's been a while now.
Thank you.
12 years, so just thank you for all you're doing, so.
And I've appreciated the support of the city.
The market study that you're planning on doing, how beneficial that will be to the city of Hibbing to be able to have that. Because I think one of the last numbers we have is probably from the comprehensive plan, which is outdated.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
And I think it'll just be really great to have a full look at what we have versus just, oh, here's the project, because that's what my experience has been. So I said, let's think outside the box, let's do something larger, not just project specific, because I feel like that ties your hands and you miss a lot of opportunities. So, you know, I think that's the best way. That was my pitch to MHP. They seem to be very much in line with that. A lot of, you know, they wanted to get moving on strategic planning, but my thoughts were, let's see what we have before we start planning what we're going to do.
Right, and just one more kudos in that the Move to Work program and how successful that has already been, and you hit the ground running on that, and to think that Hibbing is one of 32 HRAs in the country, and so congratulations on that and everyone that's overseeing that program, so thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Jackie. Appreciate it. Okay, next up, we have department and committee reports. Under their chief, for the police department, who's gonna be taking that? Oh, sorry. That's all right.
Mayor, City Council, my apologies. On the agenda this evening, I would like the City Council to consider authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to sign an updated 2-year contract with Independent School District 701, which includes an additional school resource officer. I know this is something that we talked about in a workshop. I think there was wide support for it. So I can try to answer any questions that you may have, otherwise consideration and action would be appreciated.
Okay, wishes of the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Councilor Hoffman-Sockman, support by Councilor Harkinen. Any discussion? I know we discussed a lot about it at the workshop, so.
And we're doing our, excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
And we're using ARPA funds, is that correct, to help facilitate this? Is that?
A portion of it.
A portion, okay, thank you.
Correct.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Thanks, Greg. Next up, item 2, under Councilor Harkinen. I was absent, so I'm going to turn it over to Councilor Harkinen for the summary of City Administrator's evaluation.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council met with closed session on Wednesday, July 13th, 2022 for the purpose of evaluating the performance of the City Administrator Greg Przezinski. Upon completing the first 6 months, the City Council concluded that City Administrator is meeting our expectations. The City Council also gave direction to the City Administrator to work on and improve in various areas. City Administrator Przezinski was advised that the Council are all happy with his performance to this date. It was a good session, and thank you, Greg, for all your hard work. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Any other comments, councilors? Like I said, I was absent, but I know I've been impressed with everything you've done, Greg, so appreciate it and appreciate all the other councilors that were there that night, so thank you. Thanks, Tim. Okay, next up, item 3, we'll throw it right back to City Administrator, Mr. Przezinski, item A.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you. So item 3A, I'm going to ask the City Council to authorize signing a professional services agreement between the City of Hibbing and DSGW Architects and ICS Consulting for the comprehensive facility assessment that we've been talking about for quite a while. I know that everybody around the table kind of knows the process, but for our residents and taxpayers, I want to just kind of do a little recap. So City Hall, Hibbing Library, and the Memorial Building, we want to take a look at those three facilities. The driving force is probably City Hall. It needs the most attention. We developed a task force work group, so to speak. That was myself, let's see, Nick was on it, Ty was on it, Jesse, Candy, and Pat. We submitted or sent out an RFQ. We had 8 different consultants that responded to it. We interviewed 4 of those candidates. Most of them brought in a detailed slide deck. They were about a 30 or so minute slideshow conversation, questions and answers at the end. So it was a pretty thorough process to kind of get to where we're at. We are going to suggest to the City Council, recommend ICS and DSGW. We did have a couple of points that we wanted to make to the City Council. We really like their planning process and the community buy-in portion of their presentation. We really like the use of the data and presenting to staff and the City Council the facts of each of the buildings. We know that all of our buildings and assets, there's going to be an emotional, we have to do, whatever happens to be the case, but what that consultant will do is kind of cut through the emotions and really get the facts to the City Council, putting us in a position to make a really solid decision. And I think the last 2 things that I would just mention to the City Council, this group has a lot of experience interacting with SHPO, which is the state's Historic Preservation Office. They'll be key for these old buildings. And then the other thing that they really stressed to us was their ability to help us through the financing process. We think there are several pathways to get this work done. They've done it before. They had a really nice comprehensive list. I think there were 5 different bullet points on funding sources, and they want to partner to get us to the point where we can do the construction and the remodel and make sure that we include things like sustainability goals and how we get our power sourcing and et cetera. So probably way more detail than you wanted to hear on a Wednesday afternoon. I would stand for questions, otherwise consideration and action.
Okay. First of all, wishes of the council.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Councilor Bayless.
Support.
Support by Councilor Hoffman-Sockman. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Thanks, Greg. Next up, item B, City Administrator report. I don't know if you have anything tonight or not.
I do. I have 2 items for the City Council, if I may. I'll keep it short. Item number 1, I know there were some questions about Kelly Lake and specifically the city turning our pumps on. I checked with engineering this afternoon, and those pumps have been turned on. Just wanted to get that in front of the City Council. Item number 2 that I would like to address kind of goes back to our facility assessments that we'll be working on here in the not too distant future, but specifically to the City Hall fountain. I've been receiving some questions. What's the status of it? So I did have our engineering department go and do an assessment on it. We came back with a couple of items that I want to make sure that the City Council is aware of and our residents. I know that's one of those items that people certainly enjoy in the summer. So a couple things. Number 1, there is a supply line that's broken. Unfortunately, we're not sure exactly what the location is, but we're hoping this facility assessment can determine that and determine next steps for that part of this asset. Item number 2 is we are estimating that there is a leak up to about 10,000 gallons a week. So when we took a look at it, there's not necessarily a liner per se, like you'd have in a pool. I think it's bricks and concrete and mortar is kind of the materials that they use for it. So there's a substantial leak. And the third piece is just the structure itself, a lot of delamination, crumbling. I think there's some tuck point work that might have to be done. So those were the three critical points that we took a look at and why it hasn't been commissioned for summer use. Again, the point in bringing it up is we want to fold that, what happens, what's the next step for that fountain into that facility assessment plan. Again, there's been a lot of questions, what's going on with it, so I thought it would be best, let's address it this evening. City Council, you're up to speed, and then our residents can hear from us on where that's at. So I can stand for questions. Otherwise, that's the remainder, or that's it for my report this evening.
Okay. Any questions, councilors? No. The only discussion I can say is, I worked on that fountain when we did it, and I'm gonna be honest, and I've said this about it before, a fountain in northern Minnesota isn't a thing to have. It just doesn't do it. We've had problems the 12 years I've been here, and Jesse's gotten a lot of calls, and all us counselors have a lot of calls. It's just something in northern Minnesota that doesn't really work right, especially, when it was put in back then. It's just wasn't up to grade. So I appreciate Greg and Jesse, you guys looking into it to answer some of the questions, and I appreciate you putting it into the whole study of all our buildings too. So that'll help. Hopefully the citizens can understand that we are looking into it. We just haven't let it go by the wayside. So thank you, Greg, Jesse, appreciate it. So that's the only thing I have to say about the fountain. And I can say we can make a flower garden out of it. I've always said that, to be a beautiful flower garden, so. Otherwise, moving on. I'll get heat over that one, but what the hell. So, okay, thank you, Greg. Next up, City Attorney, Mr. Borland, item A.
Mayor, members of the council, I believe within your packet, there's a rather extensive packet of information with regard to this particular resolution. I got an email from the state of Minnesota a few weeks back indicating that the joint powers agreement for essentially our office to do prosecutions on behalf of the city has expired, and so they need a new resolution. So it's really an agreement between the state of Minnesota through the Department of Public Safety and the city of Hibbing that allows me access and the ability to prosecute on behalf of the city. So that's what this 19 pages of information really is talking about. It's something we've done in the past to allow me to do the prosecutions. And so that's why, and they advised that they needed new resolutions. That's what's in for your consideration this evening.
Okay, wishes of council.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion by Councilor Fossil.
Support.
Support by Councilor Duranus. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Item B.
Mayor, members of the council, a few meetings back, we discussed at the request of the council and the chief, Esty, making some revisions to the Blight ordinance. So those revisions were brought back, and primarily the revisions are to define a new enforcement area. And so the chief came up with a new enforcement area that they call the PBA enforcement area. And so the ordinance was amended. We published it in the, posted it for the ordinance to enact it. And that's what's on for your consideration tonight, essentially to revise our blight ordinance to reflect that it will now be enforced in a somewhat larger area. And there's a map in the kind of the understanding and agreement was it'd be best if it was in the building office because our other maps are there. So that the new map for the PBA enforcement area would be there. So that's what is on for your consideration. If the council approves this tonight, then we publish the new ordinance and then it would become law upon its publication. Thank you.
Okay, wish of the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Councilor Hoffman-Sockman. Support by Councilor Harkinen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Mayor.
Up next, item 5, under Community Development Director, Mrs. Elevante.
Mayor,
Welcome.
member of the council.
Welcome, Betsy. If people don't know, she's our new community development director, so, second chance on TV now. so-
Thanks.
Welcome,
Thanks.
Betsy.
Yeah, good evening. Tonight, we have before you a resolution authorizing the city of Hibbing to make application to the broadband infrastructure program and accept funds from the Department of Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation for 573 passings and to do the local match for a state border-to-border broadband grant.
Okay, wishes of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Bayless.
Support.
Support by Counselor Fossil. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Item B.
Thank you. I would offer a second resolution authorizing the city of Hibbing to make application to the broadband infrastructure program at St. Louis County and accept the funds again in local match for the state border to border.
Okay, wishes of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Harkinen. Support by Counselor Bayless. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Thanks, Betsy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next up, bids and quotes. Item 1 under City Engineer, Mr. Story. Item A.
Mayor, Council, we opened bids for the removal of the Dixon Road Bridge. We received 2 bids. The apparent low bidder was Redstone Construction. After reviewing their bid, they had 12 errors on their bid form. So if you actually did the math, the unit price per each unit, their bid was a little over $15 million. So the next lowest bidder was Bagalis Incorporated, and their bid was $135,026. We have been approved for $139,305 of bridge bond funds for this project, so I'm asking for council approval.
And wishes of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Fossil.
Support.
Support by Counselor Bayless. Any discussion?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
just curious, Jess, is this something that's gonna be closed off now? This is the one that you and I went and looked at last year, right?
Yes, Counselor, that's correct. Once the bridge is removed, it'll be graded and sloped, and then we'll have dead end signs on that road.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just one other question I just had. How did Redstone, I'm glad we got the low bid, the next lowest bidder, but Redstone's pretty, they do bridges. Did they have someone new or what to go that far?
Mr. Mayor, so I did call Redstone. I talked to one of their owners, and he said they had a gentleman in the area that was working for them that has never prepared a bid.
Okay.
So he went through and he understood, and it was no issue there.
Yeah, I was just, so there's no issue, because I know they do a lot of, be that high up. Thanks, Jess, that answers my question. We had a motion, second, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Item B.
Mayor, Council, attached is a quote from HydroClean. This is for spray-on liner for 6 of our manhole structures. As you know, many of our manholes in town are brick structures that are well over 100 years old. So a lot of the bricks are falling off, castings kind of slough. So we've used HydroClean before a few times, and this is a very good product. They come in and they spray the top 3 feet of the structure. They patch any of the holes before they do the spray liner. The quote is in the amount of $9,012, and we do have funds for this, and I'm asking for council approval.
Okay, wish of the council.
Motion.
Motion by Counselor Drainus.
Support.
Support by Counselor Hoffman Sockman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Next up, item 2, City Service Director, Mr. Arola.
Good evening,
Item A.
Mayor, Council. Tonight I have 2 quotes for service from Commercial Refrigeration to finish up some work on the ice plant. The first one is for the pressure relief valves. They started the work earlier this year that I had approval for, and this is just to finish up the last 2. And the relief valves need to be replaced every 5 years per the state of Minnesota. So finish up that one. And the second quote is to rebuild one of the compressors, one of the 3 compressors that we have for the ring. And we usually do that about every 10,000 hours on each of them. So it ends up being roughly every 3rd to 4th year, the compressor would be rebuilt. So Commercial refrigeration, of the total amount of $7,925. And both of these were budgeted items in the capital budget, so.
Okay, wish of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Bayless. Support by Counselor Harkinen. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Next up, license and permits. Item 1, approve the 2020 massage therapy renewal of Hukin Chin New Star Massage, 2020-04 First Avenue. Wishes of the council.
Motion approved.
Motion by Counselor Harkinen.
Support.
Support by Counselor Fossil. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Item 2, approve the raffle permit application request of the Blue Jacket Wrestling Fan Club to hold a raffle on Saturday, April 29th, 2023 at the Hibbing Memorial Arena. Wish of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Bayless.
Support.
Support by Counselor Fossil. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Item 3, approve the raffle permit application request of the Hibbing Area Chamber of Commerce to hold a raffle on Monday, August 1st, 2022 at the Misawa Country Club. Wish of the council.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Counselor Hoffman Sockman.
Support.
Support from Counselor Duranus. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Item 4, approve the special event permit application of the American Red Cross to hold their blood drive at the Hibbing Memorial Building on Wednesday, September 7th, 2022. Wish of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Fossil.
Support.
Support by Counselor Bayless. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Item 5, approve the raffle permit application request of Project Care Free Clinic to hold their raffle at Mike's Pub on Saturday, September 10th, 2022. Wish of the council.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion.
Did I do it again?
That was a
I'm
tie there.
sorry. No,
Well, we have a motion by Counselor Hoffman Sockman, support by Counselor Harkinen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. That actually was a tie. Next up, approve the temporary on-sale liquor license of Palmer's Tavern to dispense alcohol at the Hibbing Memorial Building during a wedding on Saturday, September 10th, 2022. Wish of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Bayless.
Support.
Support by Counselor Fossil. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Counselor Harkinen.
Support.
Support by Counselor Bayless. Any discussion? Hearing none, meeting adjourned.